Greetings to you all. My name is Benjamin Ferencz. I believe I am the sole surviving Nuremberg war crimes prosecutor. Since we are approaching the 70th anniversary of the Nuremberg trials, I've been invited to talk to you about that. In summary, I'm to tell you how we go about changing the world. Fortunately, everything I know is on my website. Everything is free, and you're encouraged to use it in any way which will serve the purpose of creating a more humane and peaceful world. Let me begin by saying, what does it take to change the world in which we now live? The world in which we now live is almost incredible. If we have a dispute between two heads of state, we send young people like you out to kill other young people like you, people they don't even know, and people who may never have done them any harm, may never have done any harm to anyone. And they kill as many as they can until they get tired of killing them, and then they stop. They rest for a while, then they start again. That is the current system. I was a combat soldier in World War II. I saw the horrors of war, very close, not only the landing in Normandy Beach, but as a liberator of many concentration camps. And I cannot imagine anything more horrible than war as I saw it and experienced it. And as a result, it seemed to me we have to do everything we can to possibly change that. But how do you do that? First, we have to change the way people think. For generations, civilizations have always glorified the use of armed force to attain their goals. The military have been hailed as the conquerors, the heroes, glorified on every occasion. I was a member of the military. I want to protect the lives of the military, but it's not only the military. I wanted to protect the lives of everyone. And when the war was over, I was recruited by the Pentagon to go back to Germany and assist with the Nuremberg trials, which were already in process then. We had 12 subsequent trials following the trial of Justice Jackson against Goering and Company. I was the chief prosecutor of one of those trials. It was the biggest murder trial in human history. I tried and convicted 22 defendants of murdering in cold blood over 1 million people. It's more people than you've ever seen in your life, including thousands of children, one shot at a time. The people who committed those crimes were not wild beasts. They were people who in ordinary circumstances would never have become mass murderers. But in the course of a war, they became mass murderers, fighting for the ideals of their country as they saw them. Well, how do you change that? There are many things which must be done. It can't be done quickly, it can't be done easily. It will certainly take several generations to do, but I'm convinced it can be done. It's so stupid that it's incredible to me that as we have the increasing capacity to destroy life on this planet, from cyberspace, cut off the electrical grid, nuclear weapons themselves are obsolete with the big in the bang, they kill everybody. I'm sure that we can move on to something much more rational and more humane, and we are doing that slowly. The law has a key role to play, because certainly the presence of criminal law, for example, has a deterrent effect on crime. If we had laws which said rape is a crime, but there is no enforcement of it, rape rate would certainly go up. Rape becomes a prize of war. There's never been a war without mass rape of the women, and never will be. I've seen that in action when the Russians came into Berlin. So we have to change the way people think about very fundamental things, and we do that, first of all, by prohibiting by law certain actions which we condemn, in the hope that that will deter others from committing the crime. The objective is not to fill the jails with rapists and criminals and murderers, but to let them know in advance that they will be held to account. And that in itself will, to some extent, deter war making. It won't eliminate it completely, but it will deter it to a considerable extent, and even that alone is certainly worthwhile. What's the current status of the law? Nuremberg held that aggression was the supreme international crime. What had been hailed as a national right in the past histories was now condemned in the future to be an international crime subject to punishment by the international community. This was a tremendous revolution in thinking, except one thing. They relied on the Security Council to enforce it. Security Council was composed of people with different political persuasions. The result was they became paralyzed. And the other provisions of the Charter, the creation of an international military force, disarmament, creation of international courts, failed to be implemented. The result is, what do we have? We have the world as we have it today. They're continuing, as we speak, to kill innocent people all around the world, young people, because the leaders have failed to build the institutions that we need in order to shape a peaceful society. And those institutions are clearer laws, more effective courts, and a system of effective enforcement which has not even begun. On the legal side, this is a law class. The definition of aggression has become the reason for not prosecuting those who commit supreme international crime. They've said aggression hasn't been defined. That's nonsense. Are you suggesting that Justice Jackson and the other distinguished lawyers prosecuted people when they didn't know it was a criminal act? It's absurd. Jackson certainly had a definition of aggression. There was a consensus definition after 19 years of negotiation in 1974. The International Law Commission has defined it, and yet says, oh, it hasn't been defined. Now, this is, of course, is an excuse. You can't tell me, and I hope they can't tell you, that hundreds of lawyers who've been working on this for almost 70 years are unable to reach a definition. They're unable to reach a definition because the parties don't want to reach a definition. If they wanted a definition, they could put it into their own national laws in whatever language they want. They don't do that. They say, oh no, it's not good enough. Therefore, continue to kill yourselves as you have in the past. That's the current situation. So you have to interpret the law differently. I've said it doesn't matter what it's called. The illegal use of armed force, and that is, it's not in self-defense, and it has not been authorized by the Security Council, is a crime. It should be a crime against humanity. It is a crime against humanity and should be tried under that particular charge. If it's called aggression, the Security Council, under the Charter, is authorized to determine whether an act of aggression by a state has occurred. You bypass the Security Council and you go directly to the public on something they understand. The crime against humanity, the illegal use of armed force, knowing that it will inevitably kill large numbers of civilians, is certainly should be punishable as an international crime, and it's up to young people to begin to write the law review articles, make the arguments in various cases. In addition to that, you can supplement it. You hit them in the pocket nerve. The persons who are responsible should be held to personal account. Law is to be enforced against individuals, not only against theoretical states. Crime is committed by individuals, and they should answer for it in a court of law, which is a fair trial open to the public. You need public support through the media. This media, which you're looking at now, video, television, radio, all of that which didn't exist in the past is now available and accessible in ways which I can't understand. I need a grandchild to translate for me. But it's changing the way people think, and the time will come very soon where everybody will be literate. The people in Africa today can't read, who worry about getting a piece of bread for their children and are ready to risk death and flee the country and so on. That will all change. In addition to the legal structure being changed, which you can play a key part, you have the ethical culture in which we live. The religious societies, the schools have got to start teaching that law should be used not to glorify war, but to condemn the illegal use of force. When you have begun to use all of the media, communications, religion, etc., you will gradually see a change in the cultural approach, just as we have seen the acceptance of women, for example, to have equal rights with men. This was a very radical idea not too long ago. Elimination of slavery in the United States, and condemned it in most other countries, the elimination of colonialism. All of these things never existed before, and they exist today. So the idea that we can't do it, it's impossible because it hasn't been done. Nothing is new was ever done before. That's why it's something new. And what's so wrong or new about saying you don't go out and kill somebody just because his religion is different or his economic circumstance is different or his race is different? I was called back to Nuremberg, and we had 12 subsequent trials in the Nuremberg courthouse. I was the chief prosecutor in what was called the biggest murder trial in history, because it accused 22 defendants of murdering in cold blood over 1 million people, including thousands of children who were shot one shot at a time, or their heads were bashed against a tree if they were infants, or the mother was told to hold her infant so they could shoot the baby and kill both of them with one shot. I have known the murderers and heard their explanations, and I selected defendants who were well-educated men, doctor degrees, and generals in the SS. These were not people you would say they were ignorant fools. These were the planners and the perpetrators of the crime. And the time has come to say, no more, no more. We tried to say it at Nuremberg, and then we forgot the lessons that we tried to teach the rest of the world. That's become now your burden. I've done the best I could. I think we've made very good progress. We do have courts. We do have declarations of human rights. The enforcement arm is totally lacking. So what can I tell you about how to save the world? You can have faith and courage, think outside the box, find new ways and new arguments in order to assure, as I said in my opening statement, in the Einsatzgruppen trial which I headed, I said these people were killed because they didn't share the religion and the race or the ideology of their executioners. That was a terrible thing to do. I thought so then when I was 27. I still think the same when I'm now in my 96th year. I will always think the same. And I have to pass this burden now on to younger minds and younger hands. That's why I'm here talking to you in Emory University, which had an excellent reputation. One of my important mentors at Harvard was Professor Louis Sohn, who came down and taught also at Emory. He was, like me, a refugee from persecution and poverty in Europe. I understand the plight of the people who need help, as pointed out recently by Pope Francis. His name, Francis, incidentally, is the English translation of Ferencz in Hungarian. So we bore the same name and we share the same goals. And it's simply put, a world in which all human beings can live in peace and human dignity. And it can be done. Never think it can't be done. And you have a simple solution. I give it to you in 3 words: law, not war. As lawyers, if you could create that, and I see no reason why you can't, you would save the billions of dollars that today are wasted on killing machines and competition to have keeping up with the other mass murderers. You would save that and have the money available to feed the poor, to educate the people, to take care of all the other needs which today drive them to desperation and acts which we call terrorism. We must not forget that you cannot kill an ideology with a gun. You must have a better ideology, a more humane ideology, and you must be able to present it in a way which is credible, not hypocritical, that we want it for you, but not for us. We're entitled to have big nuclear weapons, but not you. That's not a persuasive argument to anybody. So we have to recognize our common humanity, our obligation to each other as human beings, our need to change the way we think and act, our ability to do that, despite the efforts and the objections from respectable people who have a different point of view. They're entitled to be listened to, they're entitled to be heard, but we don't have to follow the ideas which have brought us to the world we have. We have to change our way of thinking. So I leave it to you, my friends. Look at my website, think about the problem, think of your future, think of your children and your grandchildren. I'm sure one day you will see a happier and more peaceful world. Good luck.